The ancient pyramids of Giza turned out to be a communication device. It takes a long time to set them up properly. You have to rebuild them partially to their ancient specifications and calibrate them to the sort of entity, the spirit, the ghost, the vampire, the werewolf, or whatever type you're trying to contact. And that'll take a few years generally to recalibrate it. But once it's done, you can use it to communicate with any entity of that type across pretty much any distance. Only problem being, of course, that it's in the middle of Egypt and there's a lot of tourists around, and trying to do this discreetly is going to be a bit of a challenge. Contrast that story with the ancient pyramids of Giza were made by aliens. Now, both of these are mysteries, but the first one remains interesting once you've fully sussed it out. You can sort of do stuff with it and use it and play with it and consider what you might be able to do with it. In contrast, the second one, the only important part of it is the mystery itself. Once the mystery is resolved, well, okay, maybe the aliens are mysterious, and then you sort of punt to a higher level of mystery. And I love Beckett's Jihad Diary, but it does that all the time, partially revealing stuff and not telling you much, unfolding more mysteries. So a lot of things are just interesting just because we don't know what they are. But I'm looking at what happens if you reveal an ancient mystery. Can you keep it still interesting? And I think you can. A lot of the depictions of the antediluvians and the first city and stuff like that fall flat, because once you scrape away the mystery, you are left with pretty normal beings doing pretty normal stuff, maybe with superpowers, but nothing particularly special. I think that's why I've always found Salat so interesting, because Salat is the one that has the least mystery about him, but it's the one where once the mystery is revealed, it's still interesting. The potentially redemption seeking vampire trying to bring a clan of vampires that would be outside the eternal struggle, that maybe would find some source or path to enlightenment. That you can still play with even once you know everything. And I think this is the approach you should take. See the Methuselahs or the antediluvians as beings which may have their own foibles or their own weaknesses, but that don't think or act the way a normal human would. And therefore, once the mystery is revealed, there's still interesting stuff. For example, the story behind the Nosferatu. Their founder was cut and thought it was horribly disfigured and hated all his descendants, and then sent the Niktuku to kill them all. And that works as a myth. But if, say, the actual Nosferatu antediluvian showed up in your campaign for some inexplicable reason, but if they did show up, it's, yeah, well, they're gonna take vengeance, or they're very vain, and you have to tap dance around that. There's nothing much to do once the revelation is done. But suppose there's another story that the Nosferatu antediluvian actually wanted to create a race of beings that transcended the petty divisions of clan and cities that he saw around him, and tribes. So he deliberately made them ugly so that they could not fit in. And he hunted them, set up things to hunt them so that they would cling together in the face of their founder's wrath. Now, there, if, again, the Nosferatu antediluvian is inexplicably walking into your campaign, it's still interesting once the mystery is revealed. You can still do stuff with it. It would be, of course, terrifying, but now I'd like, if I could get out of it alive, I'd like to chat with this antediluvian, figure out what they're thinking. To take another example, there's the whole Bruja, maybe antediluvian Troil, or maybe not antediluvian, but up there in any case, that founded Carthage as an idealist city, and then it went bad. Now, if it's just a normal, well, there was a revolution, there was too much freedom, and then people started sacrificing kids to Moloch for expeditious reasons, or something like that, or just corruption, then yeah, it's kind of a bit dull once you know it. But suppose, say, that Troil was trying to. No, not trying to, that had discovered something new. Maybe the ability, via some sort of use of presence, of people to project their thoughts to each other. So Troil wanted to create an ideal city in which the vampires were unified because they were all basically telepathic. They could see what they wanted at all times. And now, maybe this went wrong because of the innate nature of, say, the beast that telepathically affected other beasts or something like that. But it's interesting because now there's the consideration of, well, what if we tried again, but tweaked it a little bit? Maybe not so many vampires in the same place, or maybe certain precautions to avoid beast contamination. And suddenly you've got a lot of stuff that you can do with it. So, my main recommendation is that try and find ancient mysteries that, when revealed, enrich the game rather than just being interesting because they're a mystery. Thanks for listening.